I'd just like to, before I introduce the whānau, I just wanted to tell hopefully a short story, but it's about the connection that I originally had with this initiative. I first met David Johnson, the CEO of Ngāti Kuia, a small iwi from a beautiful area of Te Tauihu, and he talked about an idea and he pointed at a strategic plan and he talked about what the whānau wanted to do. And I said, so what's the story? And he pointed to the strategy again and started reading through the bullet points that they had in there. And they were great statements and a fantastic statement. So I asked the same question, what is the story? He goes, what do you mean, bro? I said, the story. He says, oh, okay. There were a couple of whānau sitting on the side of the Waido River. And they were whitebaiting at the time. And they asked the question of each other and they says, hey, we've got some bits of whenua around this place, but we don't know a lot about it. We should do something about it. He says, what do you reckon, bro? He says, yeah, we should do something about it. From there, their story grew. From there, it connected to te pūtahitanga through an application process, and they are here to tell their story again to an audience. They were invited along to a dinner that we had in Whakatū, not earlier on this year, and that story was well received by those who attended. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the whānau here this afternoon. I'm always excited to hear the story because I was there at a point where a couple of whānau were sitting on the side of the Waido Awa asking themselves the question. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tauta katoa. Kia ora whānau.
Ko tū te māpau te monga, ko te hori te awa, ko te hori te waka, ko Kaikaiawaro te kaitiaki, ko te hora te marae, ko Ngāti Kuia te iwi, ko Sam tuku ingoa, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko tutu māpau te monga, ko te hoere te awa, ko te hoere te waka, ko Ngāti Kuia te iwi, ko te hora te marae, no te awa huahu, ko Dauru Pope tuku ingoa, nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koutou katoa, nā mihi mahana ki a koutou, ko tainui me kurehopo ngā waka, ko Ngāti Kuia me Ngāti Koate te tauhu, ko rani tāne ki Wairau, ko te Aotearoa ki te whananui ātara me ngā tarangatahi ki kākāriki ki Manawatu hoki. Ko Anthony Pātete i tōku ingoa, it's a pleasure being here and we look forward to giving our presentation. Tēnā koutou.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kei te mea tuatahi ko tēnei te whare o Aoraki, tēnei te mea kia koe huri no te marae o Amorangi, kia koutou te haukainga, ko Naitahu i raro i tō maunga tapu o Aoraki, tēnei te mea kia koutou. Ko tainui te waka, ko Hotiroa te tangata, ko Waikato, ko Ngāti Hikairo o ku iwi, ko Tracy King i tōku ingo, tēnei te mea kia koutou katoa. In addition to our team here today, this is an overview of our presentation, and these are some key people who can't be here today, but they were critical in us getting to the point where we got to. The chair of Ngāti Kuia, Waihaere Mason, two trustees, Elaine Wilson, Sharon Smith. We had a project management shared by Dave Johnson, General Manager for Ngāti Kuia, and while we slept in Aotearoa, we had a German connection called Mark Moses of Ngāti Kuia, who lived in Germany and did all the work while we slept, and then when we woke up, he went to sleep and we carried on. So he was a critical part of our process, and we just want to acknowledge all the mahi he did while he lived in is living in Germany. The Ever Navigator, who's not here, is ko taku hoarangatira ko Kiriopa, and they all send their apologies, but we just want to acknowledge them and part of the process. Kia ora tātou.
All right, so a short while ago, we were lucky enough to work with the guys at Maui Studios. You've probably seen them today chilling in the background with the cameras. They're filming today. So before we start our story, I thought I'd just share with you the video that they made about our initiative, and then we'll go from there.
A couple of our koro came into our Wairau office. They'd just been given a hard time white baiting in an awa that they had fished on for generations. You know, how could it be? We're rich in land, but we're pohara, you know, and all we were trying to do is to provide a feed on the table for their mokopuna. And I just thought, that's not right, eh? And I said, well, you know, what can we do? And they said, oh, we've tried. You know, we've tried for years, and it's just too hard. And so from that point, from that moment, I knew we had to do something about it. So we did.
We received collective land per our data settlement, and it's just been sitting there for so long, and we kind of as a iwi decided that it was time to help whānau take that next step in developing it, whether it was for economical, social or cultural purposes.
So for me, it's been more about keeping people on their whenua and maintaining their whenua. So this initiative, while it's been about whānau ora and whānau whenua, what it's going to do is help whānau hold on to their lands, retain their lands.
Tonight we have a particular whānau that we worked with right from the outset who saw the opportunity to connect their relationship to their whenua and their whenua to initiatives. And on the emphasis of that, what is important here is that the next generation inside this whānau have taken up their initiative role and becoming young leaders. Now we have the physical training. The mātauranga is being developed around the specific initiative, which is to do with honeybees.
Getting into the beehives, making honey, try to rejuvenate our native plants, because currently it's all gorse and pines. Just focusing on for our kids, for their future, something they can do when they're older.
I was lucky enough to walk into one of their whānau hui, where the oldest boy, Dalroy, was presenting their vision for where their whānau wanted to be in the next 20 years. And all the kids, all the tamariki were around that table as part of the discussion with our navigators. And I just thought, oh, this is what it's all about, eh? Whānau leading where they want to go, the young.
So my brother, he's going to be the IT, my sister, she's going to be the accountant, and all the brothers and the old man are all going to be the field workers, hard workers.
One thing I'd like to say to the wider community, the various agencies, is that whānau and iwi have the solutions for us. That, you know, the Crown doesn't have to provide all the solutions, but they can certainly help empower us so that we can do it.
Thank you all for this opportunity to speak here today. I'm just here to appreciate my navigators and te pūtahitanga. I'm 23 years of age, and I'm the eldest of 11 siblings, 8 boys and 3 girls, ranging from 5 to 23 years old. I have one son, Mars Blaze, he's 2. He's pretty cool. I was born in Palmerston North and lived in Foxton and the Horo Whenua, and have been jumping backward and forward from island to island, staying on family land in Te Hora, also known as Canvastown, when I was in the south. In 2014, I bought a house and live in and worked at a nursery called Jewel Flora for 2 years. I didn't really enjoy the 9-to-5 treadmill, feeling like I was going nowhere. So I decided to move back to our land in Te Hora, which was handed down from my great-grandfather, my namesake, Tauri Peka. Our land is situated right in between our maunga, our marae and our awa, so I feel I couldn't be more at home. My dad had already started a business, so when I moved here, I was helping him for a while. We do a lot of our work for our iwi, but due to funds, I had to get another job as well, so I'm currently working night shift at Sanford's. So my family and I are working towards the start of native plant nursery and beehive business. I got the nursery idea from my previous job in Levin, and bringing the native plants back, I feel it's better for our environment rather than pines and gorse everywhere. So we want to get into that. It also benefits the bees and vice versa. The bees benefit us in so many ways, from medical purposes to helping plants grow and spread to simply enjoying the sweet honey they make. So we ran our idea across the day from Ngāti Kuia, and he was like, wow, perfect timing. You know, we actually have navigators to help whānau do exactly what you want to do with your whenua. And he introduced us to our navigators, Tracy and Kiriopa. They've been helping us a lot in and throughout our journey so far. They organised us to do a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a 20-year plan vision of where we want to be. So the overall goal of our vision is to have a sustainable business, whānau working as one, on our own whenua, and helping other whānau do the same, also having it run for the future generations to come. My sister is training to be our administration. My brother, he's training to be the IT, and come August, we all will be participating in a course provided by Ngāti Kuia, and they teach you how to look after the bees, how to make hives, etc., as well as providing the tools and gears we need to succeed. We are currently clearing our section to make room for the hives and nursery, as it's currently overrun by 200 cars. It's a bit of a hobby of ours. And I'm also selling my house to use the profit to put towards our family dream. It won't be much, but it's something. So that's a little bit of our story and our journey. And yeah, I also want to thank a couple other navigators, Abby, Tane and Ripeka, because they've been helping us also. And yeah, chat.
So it's been a bit of a journey for us. It started with a dream, and then some people prayed that people would come and help them. So I'm trying to keep with the theme of the symposium, Wāhia Haia Rotua. So we did a bit of a wāhia. We had to, and when I say we, it's really Ngāti Kuia, Iwi Trust and Turunanga o Ngāti Kuia. They had this vision and said, let's help our people. What do we need to do? So the key things that they did was establish the Whānau Whenua Initiative, and out of that, they agreed that key things should be produced for the whānau. One was to work with whānau on their whenua, develop whānau plans. As part of that, have pūtake reports and provide the technical capability and assistance that whānau needed going forward. So one of the things I do want to talk about is that the Whānau Whenua Initiative wasn't just about making money. The Whānau Whenua Initiative had 3 streams: cultural, social and economic. So many of the whānau who participated in this approach really just wanted to know what happened to their land and how they succeed to their land. So it wasn't just about economics for them. And then we had some key challenges, some serious challenges. This is the rohe o Ngāti Kuia, ki te tauihu. We had to deal with 1,817 acres over 12 blocks. There are 138 blocks, sorry. No previous analysis on any of the whenua. They've got 3,373 registered whānau iwi members. A third of them are all under 29. 40% of the iwi live in the rohe, in te tauihu. 60% live outside of the rohe. So, big issue for us was the location of the whenua. A lot of this is you can't access by road. A lot of this is accessed by water. A lot of this is multiple owned. So whānau couldn't even get their own whānau together to have a hui about their lands. The process to do that is bound into the Māori Land Court process, and we had big issues with the Māori Land Court because they only came to Te Tauihu once every 6 months. The other issue for Ngāti Kuia is that their people are spread not just throughout Aotearoa, but as you can see throughout the world, and it's difficult for them to come back to Te Tauihu when there's no job, difficult to get permission or even to access their whenua to come back to. So there were some really big challenges for us in this process. So what did we do? We had to, get some forward motion going. And the key thing for this whole exercise has been relationships. What we call connected in connections. So we launched the initiative, did 6 hui. We met with 18 stakeholder groups. And that was government agencies, that were businesses, they were iwi, they were Māori Land Court, Tumu Pairo, TPK. We met with them all. We had kanohi ki te kanohi hui with them. We had numerous hui with whānau. We attended conferences. And out of that, we created a whenua portal. People got trained. We did video uploads. We got the Māori Land Court to come to Te Tauihu to run succession planning. That's been the biggest challenge for this process, is that Māori have to go to a Māori Land Court to do succession to their whenua, and they only came once every 6 months to Te Tauihu. So we managed to get the Māori Land Court to come twice in 1 year, run 2 hui each time, one in Waido, one in Whakatū, and recently as May they came back and did another succession training for our people, and as part of that we've done governance training with them. And then we have research engagements. We currently, whānau who enrolled on this process are now participating in a research program with a Crown Research Institute and iwi in the North Island. So that's how you get momentum. You've got to stay connected to your people and provide new connections for them to go forward. So that's the hire. That was the hire for this process. So we learned a lot. And whānau told us in our surveys what they thought we could do better. Because this initiative was only for 12 months, and we just want to acknowledge Te Pūtahitanga in providing the support to make it happen. So some of the key learnings for us has been supporting your whānau where you can, having the ability to support them from an iwi perspective and getting others to engage with them. One of the key things we learnt from this is the Crown is not the solution, they're just the enabler. And as an enabler, and this is not just for the Crown, this is for other organisations, other stakeholders, they need to be flexible when working with whānau, because nobody wants to fill out a 20-page application for $2,000. That's been one of the biggest hurdles in this process, is dealing with councils, dealing with, you know, Māori are living on their lands and the sounds they have no access to. They're getting rated. They're getting rates for lands they can't access. And then you try and get dispensation for that. The process to do that doesn't enable Māori at all. So we learnt that enablers, you know, be flexible when working with whānau. But the biggest learning for us has been it takes time and effort when working with whānau. So this was a contract for a year. We wish we had more time, but we didn't. So sometimes whānau just want to talk about their whenua and just want to come down and visit their whenua. And for them, for one particular whānau that we met in Levin, these two sisters just wanted to come and walk on their whenua. So they did. They came down. They went to Tohora, never been there in their entire life. These are ladies in their 50s. And the biggest joy they got was to just walk on their whenua. And for them, that was one of the biggest outcomes for them as part of this initiative. But the greatest reward is that this has been life-changing for some whānau, for all whānau to come, and not for now, but for future generations as well. So, some key outcomes for the initiative. I said this is a sprint, and we've got to run it over a marathon. And that's what we did. And these are some of what it's meant for some of the whānau, is just to have hui with their uncles and aunties about their whenua. That's been one of the greatest outcomes for one particular whānau, because that was the moe of their grandmother. So we did all of this. We produced all these outcomes for Ngāti Kuia. It's been a long journey, an important journey and a happy journey. So these are the key outcomes from the actual whānau whenua initiative. And now I'm going to hand it over to Anthony, who's going to talk to you about pūtake reports.
Kia ora koutou. One of the aspects of this project was to do a pūtake report. Pūtake, I guess the translation would be more origins, so it's looking at the origins of the whenua. It's an historical report. We realised that a lot of the whānau simply didn't have much information about their whenua. And in order to understand where we were at the moment, in order to understand where we're going in the future, we needed to understand where we've come from in the past. And so the purpose of the historical report was to provide the whānau with information relating to their whenua. And we did this in two ways. There were some whānau who were unable to identify particular whenua. They may have had that land alienated over several generations. So we did a generic pūtake report. And the pūtake reports effectively covered, this is just a contents page. We'll just quickly put this together. I didn't realise I was going to be talking today. But so Ngāti Kuia had three main land holdings. They had the reserves that were set aside under the 1856 deed of sale when they sold most of their lands in the Marlborough Sounds to the Crown. And then we had the second category, which is the lands that were purchased after the deed of sale, when Ngāti Kuia realised that the reserves that they were given proved to be inadequate, not helped by the Crown taking those reserves and leasing them out, supposedly on behalf of Ngāti Kuia without the permission of Ngāti Kuia. And then supposedly the rentals were to go back to Ngāti Kuia, which the Waitangi Tribunal found that they didn't. So Ngāti Kuia were effectively alienated from their lands because they were unable to go on their reserved lands. So they ended up having to purchase some of the lands back from the areas that they had just sold. The third category was the landless native reserves. So our leaders towards the end of the 19th century realised that a lot of the Ngāti Kuia were landless. And so they petitioned the government, they pushed the government to get these lands, to get some lands. The government finally came to the table and said, cool, we'll give you some lands. What they didn't say at the time, of course, is that we'll give you all the leftover lands in the Marlborough Sounds. And as Tracy said, a lot of those lands are simply landlocked. They're only accessible by the sea. They are like that, covered in bush or scrub, and proved mostly uneconomic. But for a lot of the whānau, it's the connection to the whenua. Whether it's the occupational reserves, which is the tūturu kainga, or the other lands that were given to them, they are theirs to have. And they wanted to know the history of those lands. So what we did is we put together the Pūtaki Report. And the Pūtaki Report covered some of the cultural aspects of some of these lands, but then we also looked at the other aspect, which was succession. And Tracy mentioned succession. A lot of the whānau didn't quite know where some of their lands came from. They knew that, Uncle Joe may have succeeded to Grandma whoever, but we didn't quite know where they didn't quite know where the origins of those interests came from. So what we did is we traced the succession. And to give you an example of within my own whānau, we did this years ago. We traced our succession using whakapapa. And you can see that they get quite complex when people, how succession works is that someone passes away, someone from the whānau, if they know that their deceased relative had passed away, would apply to the Māori Land Court. The Māori Land Court would investigate the succession. And usually the succession, if someone passed away and they had children, the lands would usually go to the children. But if that individual had a will and willed that to someone else, those lands would go to someone else. Or if that person who passed away had no children, then it gets divided up, as in the complexity of what happened within our whānau when we discovered for this particular land block, which is Te Parapara, which is one of Ngāti Kuia occupational reserves. We discovered that our interest came from many different areas, but we didn't want to use whakapapa in the Pūtaki Report. Whakapapa, as we all know, is personal, and my whakapapa here may be different from someone else's whakapapa, and we don't want to so we didn't want to do that. And also, it's time-consuming putting all that together. One of the things about the project is that we were 12 months we had to do this for this project, but in fact, it was a sprint in terms of a marathon. So there's a lot of resources that we put into it. So what we did do, we just basically put text in a report writing, and we did these sorts of tables to demonstrate where interest came from. So this particular block is again, Te Parapara. This is Waihaere Masons, our board chair. His identified, person that he identified as having interest in the block was Hāmuera Mehana. And he didn't know where those interests came from. So we traced it back to Matiaha, and we were able to identify the number of interests that individual had and so forth. And let's go to the next one. The other aspect of the Pūtaki Report was to identify where those lands were. As Tracy said, a lot of the whānau hadn't been down there. They didn't know, where a lot of these lands were. And in fact, some of the lands on the way out to Te Hora or to Canvastown, you pass by them, but many people just don't know that. So what we did is we did a lot of mapping within these Pūtaki reports. And one of the ways we did it was we did an overview map showing all the particular land blocks that Ngāti Kuia have within the Marlborough Sounds area, within the Tauhu. Then we took it down to another level and we looked at a localized map. And here you'll see the red box, which is the Kinapuru Native Reserve. And you'll see that the reader, whoever's reading it, the whānau's reading it, they can refer to the map and the images that we put in the report. And so this next one, for instance, is image 21. So it gives a visual appreciation of the land blocks. So this is a 3D map that we did from Google Map. And what you'll see is that we've identified the Kinapuru Sounds block. We've put in features like the Queen Charlotte track. We've put in the local campsite. So people, when they go out, they have a visual appreciation. There were whānau in Auckland, for instance, who had never been down to Tohora. In fact, some of them had never been to the South Island. And some of them were probably never going to go down there. And so we had to give them some sort of appreciation of what their whenua looked like. And so we put these maps together. So this is one way of doing. We did a 3D map. But we also did an aerial overview. Come on. Okay. So this is Te Parapara. And you can see that there's the land boundary, which is in purple, and we can see that the Pelorus River has taken, or Te Hoia, the river has taken over some of that land. And the purpose of this is so that someone who's driving out to Havelock, which is just north of there, heading along State Highway 6 out to Tohora, can have an idea where that land is located. And also gives us a visual appreciation of what the land looks like. And what we also did is we put in the we put in the earliest survey plans of those land blocks so that the whānau could identify, this is the 1897 map, so they could identify, okay, so this is what the land used to look like, and this is what it now looks like. So if you have a look on this map here, you'll see the Sounds Foreshore Reserve, which is another way of the Crown taking land. And then you'll see on the survey plan that that used to be the old road that used to go from Tohora to Havelock. So that land there is, let's just go to the next one. So what we did is we put all that information into a box within the report as well, which is a summary of all the information that a whānau needs to know about their particular land block. You can see that we put in the area the number of original owners, the current owner, which for Waihaere is Haumoera, and then the original owner from which Haumoera gets his interest, Then we look at the total shares in the block, and we look at the division of the shares from the whānau. And then we do a general description of the land. And the purpose of this is that, as Tracy said, a lot of these lands are landlocked, and effectively they're not going to be used, but what it does give is an indication of what the land looks like. So when someone comes down, when the whānau comes down to have a look at it, they can say, cool, get to buy, that's what it looks like. We understand that a lot of whānau will not have the opportunity to develop these lands. We know that some will, and that's always good, but we understand that some don't. And those whānau did say that they wanted a pūtake report, at least in the minimum, and so this is what we did. So some of the challenges that we came up with doing this report, aside from the time frame, is you need to have someone who's a researcher to do this report. They need to locate sources. The Māori Land Court were good in giving us access to sources. And they have a smile down there. The court records are much better than what they used to be. With the new restructuring, my only fear is the institutional knowledge will start disappearing. In fact, two of the individuals that we work with, Kanohi ki te Kanohi, one of them has left. His job was made redundant under the new Māori Land Service, and the other one is retiring. Those two together have at least 50 years, perhaps 60 years knowledge, institutional knowledge. So our biggest fear in losing these people is that we're going to lose that connection. My biggest fear is losing the records. I put down court minutes, but court minutes are very brief. You need the application files, which holds all the information. A lot of those have disappeared over the years, particularly those pre-1970s. So there's a lot of information that's out there, but my biggest fear is that they will start disappearing over time. We also built the relationships with the Māori Land Court, Land Information, and other agencies. For example, Landcare, they gave us a lot of information in terms of the land quality and so forth. And then we also had to have the appropriate mapping and other software. You know, we use software which I hadn't used before, which is QuickMap, which enables, gives you lots of title details, and you can transpose onto Google Maps. So there's a lot of upskilling of us who are working on the projects, so there's a benefit in this for us as well. I put passing generations up here because one of the biggest issues that happens is that information goes missing over every generation. A generation is about 25 years. So if you can think that generations pass, the next 25 years, it's going to be harder to find a lot more information about the whenua. So we encourage iwi and hapu to put together pūtake reports to do this sort of thing. It's vital in terms of whānau to have that connection, because a lot of them don't have that connection physically to the area anymore. And then I put time. I was in charge of the pūtake reports, and I seriously underestimated the time it took to do them. And that's a bit of a fail on my part for not realising that, but there's a lot of mahi involved in these. And so anyone who's going to be doing this particular project, yeah, double your time frame for doing the pūtake reports, or double the resources anyway. So get the pai. E pātai? Cool.
Yes, time, we all need time. So there's been some great opportunities for Ngāti Kuia in the whānau, and some of the key things that's worked for the whānau is kotahitanga under Ngāti Kuia, that support provided by the iwi, the opportunities it's given whānau to work together. And it's healed some wounds for some whānau, just to talk about their whenua and come together and realise some potential for their whenua. And collaboration. We need to collaborate with each other. We need to work with each other, whether we're whānau, hapu or iwi, and we need to work intergenerationally with each other across both islands and for the future. So these are the key. This is the momentum going forward for Ngāti Kuia. Ngāti Kuia, as an outcome of this project, has developed the Titi Raukawa Training Centre. So that's to grow the tribal economy. They are now working with an industry training organisation called Tātari. Taratahi, they're going to do the bee husbandry training. We have 10 placements for Ngāti Kuia whānau. Most of those were whānau who enrolled on the initiative. That begins on 11th of August. 10 placements for 1 year. And in addition to that, Ngāti Kuia is going to use it as a training for waka bonding. The other outcome from this in collaboration was strategic partnerships, working with ITOs, local agencies, local businesses, whānau working with whānau, and iwi working with iwi. And as part of this project and research, there's this major initiative being driven by North Island iwi that whānau of Ngāti Kuia are participating in. So that's been a really huge outcome for them. And one of the biggest things, and I just want to do a punt for Ngāti Kuia because Dave, he made sure I did this. We know that Māori Land Online service is out there in the ether, and the Minister will be here tonight, and he's responsible for that. So I'm going to do a plug for Ngāti Kuia as part of the mahi that's been done and all the training that's been provided to some of our key people in this initiative. Sam, Ngāti Kuia have developed their whenua online service. It was iwi-led. It's bringing all that information about the land, the historical record, the potential for the whenua, information we got off Manaaki whenua, LINs, all coming together in this portal. And whānau can access this through the Ngāti Kuia website. And on that note, this is a plug that I'm going to have a go at the Minister tonight for Ngāti Kuia. They want the Māori Land On service for Te Tauihu, held in Te Tauihu, led by Te Tauihu. And they have already started their Māori Land Online service to their whānau and iwi members. So I'm going to let our man Sam, who's done all the training, GIS training, and helped develop the portal, take you through it. And with that, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora whānau. So over the past year, through all the research that the navigators did, We found that a lot of whānau were experiencing similar problems, and those problems were mainly focused around the fact that there were so many different websites, there were so many different agencies that you had to go through just to find out the information you needed to develop your whenua, that it discouraged you from doing it because it was just too hard. And that wasn't a problem of any of these agencies. They provide great services and they're great at what they do. It was just, the problem was the process of developing collectively owned Māori land was unfamiliar to our whānau. And so what we did is we brought together all of these links, all of these websites, all of these agencies into one location on our website so that whānau could go in and access everything quickly and easily, and the whole process was just made easier for them. So if we could just get the tour up on the big screen. Yeah, so here it is here. It's built into our website, so it's easy for whānau to find, and it's easy for them to use. And all of the blocks that are involved in this initiative can be found here. So this here is our Okiwi Bay block. And from here, within a few clicks, you can find out that this block has 116 owners, divided into 674 shares. The block is mostly covered in mānuka and kānuka. It's frost-free for 186 days of the year. And we also have a 3D flyover of the block, which just showcases you what the land looks like, because like Anthony and Tracy have said, this land is really remote. So just getting there to even see it is quite difficult. So if we could just chuck that video up. So this information for this block is available for every one of the blocks that we have. So yeah, we created this using Google Maps. So from there you can sort of get an idea of what you can actually do with that whenua. You see that it's quite hilly, it's remote, it's not really that easy to access, but just being able to see it, that gives you an idea of what's a viable option in terms of land development. And now that the whānau have learnt about their whenua and they've seen it, they can start to begin that hui process and begin to develop those ideas. This tour is in a few weeks. Hopefully we'll be going live on our website so whānau can use it. We have one up there at the moment that is an older version. And what we wanted to do with this tour was we wanted to keep it fluid, kind of in a constant beta mode, so that it was built around the needs of our whānau, and as those needs change, so does the tour. And so with 60% of our registered members living outside of Whakatū, I think it's really important that we provide our whānau with different ways to connect remotely, and using digital avenues like this is a really good way for whānau to reconnect. And so this tool isn't just about education or connecting you to those agencies, it's also a tool for reconnecting to your whenua and to your iwi. And with that, I'd just like to say a thank you to Tuputahitanga for hosting this event and allowing us to come and speak, and I'd just like to open up the floor to any questions that anyone might have. I'll pass that one on.
So there are quite a few blocks that aren't landlocked. So the majority of the land has mānuka and kānuka on it. So whānau, as part of the Tātari Bee Husbandry Initiative, have put their lands up to be developed as part of that process. So it's not just, there is quite a bit remote lands, but bee husbandry is an option for whānau to use mānuka and kānuka to get honey, get other products off that those particular species or trees, and turn that into a viable economic return for them.
Any other questions?
So the question was, are we using native bees or are we bringing in bees? So we're working with, Ngāti Kuia is working with people in the industry who have bees, have nukes, have hives. So most of those will be sourced locally, and those will be, the training will run out of Titirokawa, which is a complex beside the Hoire River, by Paloris. How do I describe that? So it's lands that Ngāti Kuia got returned as part of their settlement, and so they're going to use that as the training centre and bringing in expertise, advice and training to develop bee husbandry. So it's going to be all locally sourced bees. They're not, there's not many natives left actually in the whole of New Zealand, native bees. They're a bit of a dying race. Yeah. I suppose one of the things that we really want to say to people is that the Pope whānau is one example of whānau who really just had a vision, wanting to work together, live together, stay on their whenua. And all we did was work with them to realise that dream. So wherever your whānau are, and it doesn't matter if your land is remote, because some of these remote lands, there are other options for them. So whānau want to eco living. They want to use the plants for other purposes. People want to look at rongoa. There's a whole range of things you can do with your lands, even if it's in a remote area. It's just that you have to have that passion that Marcus talked about, and you've got to have a willingness to do some hard work. So just want to thank all the whānau who invited us into their homes and who took us on this journey and got this initiative to where it is today. We're happy to answer any questions or if people want to talk to us during the hui. Kia ora, Molly.
Kia ora whānau. A big thank you for travelling to the symposium and telling your story again. The first time they did a presentation in Whakatū, there wasn't enough room on the stage for the whānau, and they really filled it up. But yeah, you're here today, and I think really living up to iwi pakohi, the qualities of kasi, of strength, dedication, and knowing where you're going, and really, really hard work. So a big mihi to you all, to you too, Gina, and to the Ngāti Kuia whānau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Nā mei.